मैंने जितने भी इवेंट्स आज तक ऐड किए हैं अटेंड किए हैं विच इज़ around the product and from a specific brand, I haven't seen that kind of engagement anywhere.
So essentially, B2B brands need to evolve and look what B2Cs are doing.
There is this brand, I will not name it, it's doing 1,000 crores revenue per annum.
Wow. For B2B companies, these are new avenues. They already have a system in place.
A lot of B2B companies are not able to run campaigns for a longer period of time because they plan marketing budgets for not more than a quarter. I think.
You should be open to the ideas or the suggestions.
Hey everyone, we are back once again, and today we are discussing about something which is often ignored in the Indian startup ecosystem. We're talking about B2B companies, and it's going to be fascinating, I guess. I think we are ready for that, right?
Right.
Right. So I'll start this session in Nitin with a specific anecdote. I think हम लोगों ने इस बारे में काफ़ी बात भी की है. So back in 2014-15, जब हम लोगों ने we started the agency, back at that time people were absolutely talking about only a few startups. They were talking about Flipkart, they were talking about Snapdeal, Jibong, they were probably talking about Myntra, whole bunch of B2C startups. But at that time, there was this one particular brand which was already unicorn. I may be a little off, maybe 16, 17, 18 mein ho sakta. But at that time, this B2B startup had reached the unicorn status. And I'm quite sure aaj bhi a lot of people are not aware of it. That brand is called InMobi. You remember that?
Right, I do.
है ना, हमारी इंडस्ट्री से ही आता है.
हमारी इंडस्ट्री से आता है and I remember this asking this question to a investor meeting. So there was this gathering in Gurgaon. So I asked this question that why don't we hear a lot of B2B brands because they are a lot doing good, right? So why can't we hear of them and what is the reason? So I remember the answer was, I guess the answer was from Policy Bazaar co-founder. So the answer was that it's not that sexy to talk about them.
Correct. It's something like that, right?
Something like that.
Something like that. I think उसमें इतना glitz and glamour नहीं है.
Right.
And I think I've also heard it from a lot of other people saying exactly that, right? And I'll start by asking one question, और उसका the basis is that a lot of B2B companies that I know, even our fellow agency owners, वो सब करेंगे, वो सब brands की marketing करेंगे,
Right.
but they will not market for themselves. Right?
Right.
It's a clear pattern. It happens everywhere.
Right.
You agree to it or not, but that really happens. And there is a similar thing that I noticed last year, I think. So there is this brand, I will not name it. It's doing 1,000 crores revenue per annum.
Wow.
It's such a big company.
Wow.
Right? They don't have a marketing team. They didn't have a marketing team before
I know which brand
22.
it is.
Yeah, it's before 2022, right?
Right.
And then they decided to make a marketing team. I think उन्होंने 3 लोग hire किए. And eventually that team was also dissolved. And of course, any marketer would not be would want to be a part of a company जहाँ पे that department or that team is not taken seriously, right? So this did happen with a company which is sitting probably on a lot of cash at a place where they can consolidate it. अच्छे marketing campaigns कर सकते हैं. They can strengthen their position.
Right.
And they are simply choosing not to. Right. Why do you think this happens?
I think a lot of it has to do with the DNA of a company, right? Mostly B2B companies who are doing good or who have done good in the past, they are led by sales, inside sales, or you can say outreach sales, right? तो उनको आदत ही नहीं है कि आउटबाउंड ही करना है, राइट? लीड जनरेशन से शायद बिजनेस आएगा नहीं आएगा, तो उनको ये अनसर्टेनिटी की इसकी आदत ही नहीं है. लॉट ऑफ देम आर गेटिंग गुड बिजनेस. दे यूज्ड टू गेट गुड बिजनेस बाय आउटरीचिंग, बाय इनसाइड सेल्स, एंड दे आर हैप्पी विद इट, दे आर कंटेन्ड विद इट. सो आई गेस दैट्स द वन रीजन आई थिंक इट इज, जिसकी वजह से वो नहीं कर रहे. एंड सेकंड वुड बी मे बी मोस्ट ऑफ देम आर नॉट गेटिंग सक्सेस आउट ऑफ इट because they don't have the DNA, they don't have the right ingredient into it, and once few those who try, they don't get early success, and that's why they are not doing it anymore. What do you think? I mean, because I also noticed this pattern that a lot of companies started and eventually they fade away with their marketing campaigns when it comes to B2B companies.
So I think the fundamental problem is the time period in which they look at marketing, right?
Right.
So I was consulting this a company which used to offer specialized chemicals to the other people and raw chemicals, right?
Right.
And I asked this question to them that hey, what is the sales cycle? How long does it take for a lead to close?
Right.
Right. So she said, don't worry about it. I said, why? It may take up to 12 months.
Right.
So if it's taking 12 months to close a lead,
Right.
you need to run campaigns for like at least 12 months to actually understand whether the campaign is working out for you or not.
Right.
And I when I go on the sales calls, honestly, इसका आंसर ऐसा होता है 4 से 8 वीक या 3 महीने.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they want to assess the success of the campaign in a month. So one way to solve this, and I do recommend it to my current clients as well, you don't plan the budget for 3 months, don't plan the budget for a quarter,
Right.
don't plan a budget for half year, plan it at least for a year.
Hmm.
Well, you have so there is a also compounding effect of the advertising. Same people are getting to know about you, right? You are nurturing them, you are also getting to understand how your campaigns are working, how people are responding to it. The reason it's not sustained, a lot of people or a lot of B2B companies are not able to run campaigns for a longer period of time because they plan marketing budgets for not more than a quarter. I think that's a pattern that I've seen, at least with the brands that I do talk to.
Got it.
Right.
Got it. And so essentially, what we are saying is that your sales cycle, is taken into account when you are planning your marketing budget, or how long you want to carry on that campaign, right? So if your sales cycle, let's say, is maybe 15 days, then you won't recommend 1 year testing. Maybe then it is for 6 months.
हाँ करेक्ट. मतलब ये कुछ वैसा ही है जैसा परफॉर्मेंस मार्केटिंग ऐप में हम एट्रीब्यूशन विंडो देखते हैं, राइट?
Right.
है
Right.
ना, मतलब हम लोगों को मतलब बोला जाता है कि आप एक दिन का क्लिक देखो या 7 दिन का व्यू देखो. एग्जैक्टली लाइक दैट, राइट? योर
Right.
नंबर्स विल लुक वेरी डिफरेंट. वहाँ
Right.
पे आप बस व्हेन यू आर वर्किंग ऑन B2C साइड, एटलीस्ट ऑन ई-कॉमर्स साइड, यू आर ट्राइंग टू सी कि हाँ ज़्यादा ओवर एट्रीब्यूट ना हो.
Right.
यहाँ पर इट्स एग्जाम्पल ये एट्रीब्यूट होने का चांस तो दो आप,
Right.
राइट?
Right. I
इट्स
agree.
दैट्स द
I
होल
agree.
डिफरेंस, राइट? So I think having said that, Nitin, I want to understand one more thing from you. So B2B companies, all the marketing campaigns that we plan for it, it's essentially lead gen campaigns,
Right.
and lead gen campaigns are also we also do it for B2C companies.
B2C companies.
Do you think there is a difference? And if there is a difference, what exactly is it?
Interesting. So, on the surface, it may look like there isn't a difference, but both essentially are a very different campaigns. One reason is the average order value. Your B2C brands, your order value may range from 1,000 rupees to 10,000 to 15,000. For B2B, that can go up in lakhs, maybe 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 50 lakhs, or maybe 1 CR.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of changes things. As you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, the AOV will be different. So because of the AOV, the sales cycle will be longer. And these two things alone will put pressure on the quality of the leads.
Mm-hmm.
For B2C, the lead quality does matter, but when it comes to B2B, the quality of the lead is paramount. You have to have strong checks on the quality of lead, that how qualified the lead is, how good the lead is, and you have to go back to the board, rectify it once and again, that okay, am I getting good leads? Is the lead qualified? You have to have strong parameters into it, that SOPs should be built, because ultimately, if the leads are not good enough, and there are strong sales team running behind those leads, you will end up not wasting just marketing spend, you will waste a lot of money in your human capital as well.
No, that's true. That's correct. That's correct. That brings me to idea of, you mentioned the word SQL, right? और मतलब आप किसी से भी पूछो, I talk to a lot of B2B brands. So their answer is जिसके पास paying capacity हो.
Right.
मतलब
Right.
ऐसे तो मतलब मैं मतलब टारगेट ही नहीं कर सकता पेइंग कैपेसिटी. आई मीन
Exactly.
आई विश मुझे फाइनेंशियल डेटा
पेइंग
मिलता.
कैपेसिटी आई गेस विराट कोहली के भी आसपास भी है, बट मे बी विराट कोहली को
राइट,
यूपीएस नहीं चाहिए, राइट?
करेक्ट. दैट एग्जैक्टली, दैट्स
राइट,
करेक्ट.
मे बी विराट कोहली को शायद कोई B2B ब्रांड का प्रोडक्ट्स नहीं चाहिए. विराट कोहली मे बी इज नॉट लुकिंग टू बिल्ड अ हाउस, मे बी ही इज नॉट looking for a contractor, right?
राइट,
So
राइट.
paying capacity is not the right answer or the right metric,
दैट्स करेक्ट.
right? That's a very vague thing to say, I guess, when it comes to qualifying a lead.
राइट. सो मुझे ना मतलब यही दिक्कत लगती है कि एसक्यूएल डिफाइंड ही नहीं होता,
Hmm.
राइट? और हम लोग भी एक B2B कंपनी है. it also took us a journey to kind of reach there,
Right.
right? So I really want to understand you how these companies should approach even when they're planning to define SQL for their companies.
I think पहले तो समझना पड़ेगा एसक्यूएल होता क्या है, राइट? बिकॉज these terms have been used a lot, but maybe कई बार इनका सही डेफिनेशन ही क्लियर नहीं होता. सो एसक्यूएल इज नॉट समथिंग हु इज रेडी टू बाय, राइट? ऑब्वियसली वो एसक्यूएल है, बट उससे नीचे भी देखना पड़ेगा, राइट? क्या पैरामीटर हैं जो उसको एसक्यूएल बनाते हैं? फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ आई एम ए बी2बी कंपनी, मेरा एसक्यूएल ये हो सकता है कि यार जिस बंदे ने मेरे साथ पहली कॉल पे आया, आने के बाद ऑडिट के लिए मुझे बोला एज एन एजेंसी कि चलो यार मुझे आपका अप्रोच अच्छा लग रहा है, मुझे आपका बैकग्राउंड अच्छा लगा, लेट्स डू एन ऑडिट फॉर मी. दैट कैन बी एन एसक्यूएल फॉर मी. अभी उसने मुझसे बाय की बात नहीं की, अभी ही इज नॉट सेइंग कि आपकी प्राइसिंग कितनी है, वेदर आई वी शुड बी स्टार्टिंग नेक्स्ट मंथ और नेक्स्ट वीक. ही वी आर नॉट ऑन दोज टर्म्स राइट नाउ, बट एटलीस्ट माई एसक्यूएल कैन बी कि he came on a call, he came on a discovery call, and then he said that okay, I like the approach, but I want it to be more precise. Let's do an audit for me, run an audit for me. So audit can be an SQL for me, right? So SQL बहुत bottom of the funnel में जाके define करना सही नहीं होगा, and बहुत ऊपर define करना भी सही नहीं होगा. It should be somewhere in the middle of the funnel, where the lead actually have shown some interest in your product or service, right? And that you can define as an SQL.
Correct. I would like to add one more thing here. So I think a lot of discussion on SQL that we have with people, it's usually very subjective, right? So and one of the methods that B2B companies do use is something called lead scoring. Now my problem with lead scoring is it's so complicated that the marketing teams will never understand it, right? And even if they do understand it, they're not always very concrete ways to influence it,
right?
And if there is a way to influence it, it's very sophisticated, right? So at least someone who's just starting out with the B2B campaigns, lead gen campaigns, they have to have a very good idea about who their customers are, and I think it's not very defined. So one thing is I really liked with one of the companies we were working with, so they defined SQL in very simplest term. There was this checkbox, and that checkbox really said that are you interested in buying this product,
right?
Yes or no,
right?
Very plain and simple,
and just one line.
Exactly. You know that you have worked on it,
right?
So if that thing is there, I mean, that really tells that irrespective of what information you filled before that, अगर आपने वो पे yes लिखा है, are you interested in buying this particular product, I mean it's a big win for you, right? You have really defined it. आपकी sales team को ज़्यादा सोचना नहीं है, they know कि उसको approach किस तरीके से करना, right? So I think one pattern that I do notice is B2B companies SQL बहुत concretely नहीं define करती है, they go into complexities. और जब मैं हम लोग लीड जेन कैंपेन्स करते भी हैं, पीपल यूजुअली रिस्पॉन्ड दैट क्वालिटी लीड्स नहीं आ रही हैं, दे डोंट ब्रेक इट डाउन इनटू पार्ट्स, what percentage is the not qualified versus marketing qualified, चलो वो तो अलग ही discussion है,
right?
Then there is a sales qualified lead and which actually convert, right? So I think this is something which brands do not come up with, and this is what B2B companies are lacking, and I think this is the reason शायद बहुत जल्दी बंद हो जाता है marketing campaigns.
पर मुझे लगता है उनका fault नहीं है.
ऐसा क्यों?
I mean, I think for B2C companies, the essential route for success has been the digital marketing first or the performance marketing first companies. They were selling online, so they had to figure it out, right?
हाँ, correct, ये भी बात है.
So for B2B companies, these are new avenues. They already have a system in place. They are already generating revenue. They are already generating sales. So this is an extension of their existing services or existing processes. तो यहाँ पे उनको hand holding लगेगा. I'm not saying that it's okay to not understand. I'm just saying they need a bit more hand holding than a B2C company or e-commerce company to understand that okay, this is how it works, these are the checks you should be doing, and this is how it should be done, all three steps.
But is it fair to say that the most difficult part of planning a B2B campaigns is figuring out what your SQL actually is?
Definitely, and it cannot happen unless or until all stakeholders are involved.
Yeah, that's a very good point actually.
Right. If I'm talking to a marketing manager for a B2B sales or B2B company, marketing manager of a B2B company might not know what are the essential parameters that goes into an SQL. Only a sales head will be able to answer that question, right?
That is true.
So unless or until a sales head is also involved in a conversation at some point when we are defining an SQL, that exercise might not be fruitful,
Right.
right? And unless or until you don't define an SQL, I don't think that's going to work as we established, right?
Right.
तो इट्स नॉट जस्ट अबाउट B2B. B2B को तो मैं थोड़ा स्लैग काट भी दूँ. B2C कंपनीज के पास भी SQL नहीं होता,
करेक्ट.
राइट? इवन दे डोंट नो. बस एक सिंपल आंसर है कि दे आर नॉट पेइंग, द लीड्स क्वालिटी इज
हाँ,
नॉट
वही
गुड,
वाली बात है कि पैसा नहीं है, मतलब
पैसा नहीं है.
हाँ.
बट दैट्स नॉट द केस. यू हैव टू आइडेंटिफाई कि मेरा SQL क्या है, एंड उस SQL को बहुत क्लियर शब्दों में डिफाइन करने की जरूरत है. वंस यू डू दैट, आई थिंक एनी B2B campaign can be a successful and for any industry, whether you sell a 10,000 rupees service or a 10 lakh rupees service.
But let me bring the another question into the picture.
Right.
So let's say SQL define भी कर लिया, right? और lead gen campaign शुरू भी कर लिया. I'm talking specifically about the paid marketing campaigns here, right? So वो शुरू भी कर लिया हमने paid lead gen campaigns. How do you actually optimize it for SQL? Because ये performance marketing campaigns traditional जो हम e-coms के लिए करते हैं,
Right.
it's not exactly like that. You have kind of second, third order conversions, right? Lead आई, lead के बाद you actually define SQL. How do you use that data to actually optimize for SQL?
Right. So let me take like 2-3 minutes to answer this question in a way that how campaigns are optimized in general, right? And then I'll answer this question, particularly related to SQL. So what happen is that once you have a campaign, right, you get a lead, and that signal passed on to Facebook or Meta or Google, right? Okay, so this person came to your website and he filled a form. So for Meta, their work is done, right? So that's a signal. So unless or until you pass that signal for an SQL to the Meta or to Google,
Right.
the algorithms will not be able to optimize. So if you're only passing the signal for a lead, not for sales qualified lead, the campaigns will optimize for leads only. You have to optimize for sales qualified lead, and for that to happen, you have to pass that signal to your algorithms that okay, this is a lead only and this is my sales qualified lead. Optimize for sales qualified lead.
Right. Right.
Right. And even I guess you work with a lot of B2B brands. You talk with a lot of B2B companies. I think my assumption would be you might be finding it difficult to convince them for optimizing for SQL or even defining an SQL. What's your experience on that?
No, it's very difficult, यार. मतलब it's a task, right? And I think the fundamental difference that you said in the initial parts of the conversation is extremely relevant. So I call this organization as sales focused organization, which is not bad. मतलब जब तक आपको रेवेन्यू कंट्रीब्यूट हो रहा है,
जब तक पैसा बन रहा है सब ठीक है.
हाँ, तो मतलब it's amazing, right?
Right.
But I think the problem really arises when you know that हाँ अच्छा revenues के आगे बढ़ नहीं रहा या बढ़ रहा है तो growth is extremely slow. That's when they start thinking about the marketing campaigns. Now the problem is the people I am probably talking to, they are not versed with the marketing concepts, right? मतलब I was talking to one of the biggest accounting firms, right? And I was talking to a partner there, and I said कि we will plan an advertising campaign, and then he said ये ads दिखती कहाँ पर है?
Right.
Like I'm dealing with the most basic questions sometimes, which is not bad. I mean, I'm happy to take that particular pain to educate the customers, but I do feel that in an organization which is extremely B2B led, there has to be a person on the other front who does understand marketing. Because even if I'm trying to convey tens of stuff, there has to be a person who kind of hold our hands and say, "Acha, तुम्हें ये चाहिए? I'll get it done for you, and I'll let you run the campaigns the way you want." Right? But the biggest challenge right now is just explaining the basic stuffs to them. Right?
I think I will reduce it to even, I mean, one step below. I will say that नहीं है बंदा कोई बात नहीं, but just be open to the ideas.
नहीं तो it's asking for too much, I would say.
No, I mean,
हाँ मतलब ये हो जाए फिर तो कोई दिक्कत ही नहीं है.
Right, right. I'm not saying कि यार आपको चाहिए ही चाहिए कि you have to have a person who can understand performance marketing. If it doesn't, it's fine. But as a POC or as a founder whoever the POC is, you should be open to the ideas or the suggestions. unless or until that happens,
Hmm.
even a marketing person will not be fruitful,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So as an organization, if you're open to new suggestion, new ideas, I
Hmm.
think even then the agency will
Hmm. Hmm.
bring fruitful results or desired results to the table.
Hmm. इससे ना मेरे को मतलब एक बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन बन रहा है मतलब लास्ट लास्ट एपिसोड में वी डिस्कस्ड अबाउट समथिंग कॉल्ड डीएनए ऑफ द कंपनी
Right,
राइट
right,
सो आई फील सम ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैव अ मार्केटिंग डीएनए
right,
right their
right.
marketing teams are extremely solid they understand the concepts they understand what their organization needs so my question would be like if b2b companies really want to build a let's say marketing campaigns I'm not talking about like hiring an agency right let's
Right.
just get it out of the picture let's say they eventually want to become an organization where they understand marketing they can plan their own campaigns they can plan their own lead gen strategies right how do you actually build that kind of dna and I'm asking this because we are a B2B organization. We have been there, done that. We have planned our own B2B campaigns. We're not exactly like that. How do you build it?
So I think to answer this question, let's discuss how we started. Do you remember our conversation on that when we actually planned our first campaign?
Uh-huh.
uh, and what was your response that should we do it or should we not do it?
अच्छा मैं बताऊं मतलब ये सबको
बताना ही पड़ेगा.
ठीक है all right so so this is what happened so I think as an agency and everyone knows that as an agency a lot of agencies don't engage in their own marketing campaigns right
Right.
business वैसे ही चल रहा है traditionally कि referral आ रहा है and everyone is happy and all that right so Nitin and I had a very heated discussion I think back in 2021 and it was Nitin was of the idea that we should go ahead and plan our own marketing campaign I said yeah chalta nahi agency business does not work like that I exactly remember this what I said और आई थिंक 1.5-2 घंटा हमने इस पर काफ़ी हीटेड डिस्कशन किया एंड नितिन वाज लाइक यार हमें मार्केटिंग बजट अप्रूव करना पड़ेगा बट एंड I'm repeating this again this is extremely important for this he said ऐसा नहीं होगा कि जो बजट एलोकेट होगा वो 1 महीने के लिए हो रहा एंड हम लोग वो उसका टेस्ट करके बंद कर देंगे वी आर गोइंग टू डू इस फॉर 6 months 12 months और उसके बेसिस पे हम देखेंगे वो बजट चाहे जितना भी हो वो इट डजेंट मैटर बट जो बजट एलोकेट हो रहा है दैट वी विल स्पेंड कंसिस्टेंटली फॉर द नेक्स्ट 12 months सो अगेन जो मैंने पहले बात कही थी वो शायद कहीं ना कहीं यहीं से आती है right and I think we did that and very honestly that's one of the reason I think our growth has been really good in the last 2 years
Right.
so we did LinkedIn campaigns मतलब हम लोगों ने सिर्फ brand campaigns किए we, we and you'll be surprised like there is no lead gen strategy there just created content started promoting on LinkedIn we did it for like almost a year and then we created some testimonial videos we ran them for engagement campaigns no lead gen strategies right so it did really work for us so kind of we became an organization जिसका B2B ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जिसका
Right.
डीएनए मार्केटिंग वाला बट हाँ हाँ मतलब मैंने सोचा नहीं इस तरीके से बट हाउ डज वन बिकम an organization which has a marketing DNA especially in the context of B2B.
So I think, I mean, just like I'll come back to this, but I'll say that we actually put our money where our mouth was. That you have to spend
सही
money
बात
on
है
as on
सही
B2B
बात है
campaigns, and we did that. But and I also want to add that I remember our conversations, and we decided that कि अगर lead नहीं आएगी तो कोई बात नहीं.
हाँ that is the mindset with which we started it yes.
And I remember you saying
Hmm.
कि ठीक है कर ले पैसा waste.
correct correct correct
ठीक है.
correct
So I think
हाँ
as an organization,
हाँ
if you are venturing into a new territory,
हाँ हाँ
especially for a B2B player, right?
हम्म
Because B2B marketing is very niche. You're asking for
हम्म
DNA, but you also have to understand that you are not selling toothpaste that everybody needs in the morning. You are
हम्म
selling a very specific product, very
correct
specific service,
correct
and for that you have to find buyers, right? It's not going to happen overnight. You have to allocate a budget, and you have to come up with a mindset that, boss, okay, I'm willing to spend this money for 6 months, 12 months, and I have and keep your expectations low. Once you figure that out, once you have that engine, then you will scale. But you cannot expect that scale in the very first month, or I will even go on and say in the first 3 months if you haven't done marketing in the past. Because as a B2B company, if you are coming up with the mindset that okay, I'll scale it in the first 2 months, boss, that's not going to happen.
इसमें इसमें मतलब when you say कि expect like keep your expectation low मतलब वही वाली बात है कि मतलब फिर तो खुदा ही मिल जाएगा, ऐसी बात है तो
Right, right,
right.
right.
But I think this also happens because there are a lot of stakeholders involved. I mean, right, in our case, for instance, we discuss our case, like we are the two key stakeholders.
Right,
हमने डिस्कशन किया, लड़ाई की, and we figured out कि हाँ यार ये चलो करते हैं, right.
right.
But I think there a person who is probably taking the onus of lead gen campaigns, he has to answer two or three other people, not just one person, right, who don't understand marketing at all, uh, right, who probably don't understand what's happening on the basic level. So I think that's pretty challenging. Like that's something B2B companies I think are going to struggle with for a long time, because they need to have, and I think the solution to is not even allocating the budget. Building that marketing DNA is the solution. So I think if you uh, if you're planning everything in a way in which you're just fitting in the pieces rather than just focusing on the end result, I think you'll be able to succeed with this.
Right. I mean, I completely agree. But I also want to add one more point into this.
Mm-hmm.
When you say that there will be a lot of stakeholders involved, I do agree there will be, right? But that is true for any new initiative in a company. Why just marketing? If you have a B2B company and you have an R&D department, there will be a similar discussion. Let's take an example of a pharma company, right? So if a pharma company has to build a new molecule, it doesn't happen in 3 months, 6 months. It takes years
Right.
to do an R&D and build a new molecule, right?
Right.
And even you are not sure that you will be a success. It will be a success. It's not like written on the wall. It can be a failure, right? But you still do it because you know if you do it right, then you will hit a jackpot,
Right.
right? So there are a lot of companies who invest in R&D, and even in pharma, there are a lot of over-the-counter products, right? OTC products they call it, right? They are not promoting that. So why I would say that as an organization, you need to understand that if you are taking a route on R&D to invest, then you also need to understand that for marketing to work in a modern time, you have to invest. And once once you start investing in 3 months, 6 months, right, you will see the results.
So I am thinking of one more point here. I think the context in which we have been discussing everything is in the context of traditional B2B companies, like
Right.
manufacturing units, right? People who design chips for other set of companies, right? Or let's say people who design products for automotive companies. So I think one particular B2B industry, which is extremely great with marketing, and I think people can buy the templates of growth from there. It's the B2B SaaS companies.
Right.
And I know many exceptional company out there.
Zoho, for example.
हाँ जो मतलब क्लास ही है, क्या ही बताएं, है ना.
Right.
And I think similarly Freshworks is amazing in that particular segment.
Right.
In Mobi की हम बात कर चुके हैं starting में, like they didn't become a unicorn just by they couldn't have been without
I
building
think
a
there was also a company we worked who was acquired by, I guess, Zype, if I'm
हाँ
remembering
right
the
right
name.
mass
Right?
systems,
Mass Systems, yes.
right. So I
Mass
think
Systems.
हाँ वहाँ पे I think the brief was very clear, I think, and the founder was ready to also go into venture into the other areas and understand that yeah, this is important for the organization. So yeah, mass systems, interesting that you mentioned it, because a lot of things that we did was on the organic growth side. Right. So I just want to know from you, what should be the priorities of and when priorities of a B2B company on the SEO front, right? Because in SaaS, once you figure out, let's say PMF, you start in getting the organic traffic, and you start turning that into customer generating lead. What is the importance of, let's say, organic growth or very technically search engine optimization for B2B companies?
I guess it's the same analogy between trading versus investing,
Hmm.
right? I guess there are a lot of videos on YouTube on trading versus investing. So I guess our listeners will be able to relate. So trading is generally when you look for short term. So if you're looking for a short term solution or a short term profitability, short term customer acquisition, then performance marketing should be the right path. It's not bad. Take it.
Considering वो sales cycle पता है कितना
Considering
है,
you have figured out your basics. I mean,
correct.
I'm assuming that you have figured out your basics. So that is one thing. Second, if you're looking for long-term profitability, if you want to invest, then definitely SEO will be the right path. So as an organization, if I'm the CEO, if I'm the CMO of a SaaS company, which I am, by the way, but if I am the CEO of a SaaS company, I'll be investing in both. I'll be investing my money on SEO. I will be investing my money in performance. It will not be either or. It will be both.
Correct, correct. And I'll ask one another question from you.
Yeah.
So this is in the context of SEO. So I have been asking this to a lot of people, and I think I've posted this on LinkedIn. So let's say you are planning an SEO campaign for next 12 months. Where would that budget come from? Would it come from the marketing team, or would it come from the branding team?
I'm not able to understand. Can you please elaborate on it?
Right. So a lot of people do say that. I'll put the context. So a lot of people say that SEO is not really a lead generation activity.
Okay.
It's a brand marketing activity.
Right.
Right. So how do you feel about that? Like, do you agree with that?
I don't think so. I mean, if you are segregating on the terms of that, what will be the outcome of it, then why would you restrict SEO to brand marketing? Because the outcome can be and will be leads as well. Because SEO will help you in brand discoverability, which I agree, right? And that is brand awareness, that is brand marketing. But once that user came to your website, he or she can also fill up the form, right? He can also contact you as well, right? So I guess it works both ways. But wherever the money comes from, I mean, that's your call to make, right? That's a brand's call to make. But the money should come for SEO. That's what I want to say.
But I'll add another thing to this. So a lot of companies that I talk to, they say that they are getting a lot of organic traffic, 20K, 1 lakh, 5 lakh, right? And they say that all the conversions and the leads that we are getting, they're essentially from the services and the products and the solutions pages or the homepage. They are not able to get the blog traffic to convert into the actual customers,
Right.
or even go to the demo bookings in the context of some enterprise SaaS customers or SaaS businesses, right?
Right.
So in that sense, can you suggest some strategies on how to convert the SEO traffic into leads?
Right. So first is that you have to understand that every user who came to your website or on your blog will not fill your form. So keep your expectations accordingly. That will be the first thing.
मतलब ये तो फिर वही बात हुई, एक्सपेक्टेशन ही सेट करके रखो मार्केटिंग
I mean, definitely. I mean, if I'm looking at Colgate's ad on a billboard, right? I'm not going to go ahead and buy a Colgate right away.
में.
I don't need it, right? I may buy when I'll need it. So that is one thing. So blogs, the main purpose is for brand awareness. So that will happen, right? That is top of the funnel. Second, you have to plan your blogs in a way that there should be clear-cut CTAs for mid of the funnel. Don't expect that user to fill up the form right away. Blog is top of the funnel. Define or structure your blog for mid of the funnel. Once that user came on the middle of the funnel pages, it can be a free tool, it can be a product or services pages, then he will engage for the and go for a bottom of the funnel, which is contact us page. So for blog, top of the funnel, and then from top of the funnel to mid of the funnel, and from middle of the funnel to bottom of the funnel, which is your contact us page. So that's how it should be done.
Great. And apart from the SEO campaigns and let's say performance marketing campaigns for lead generation, do you think is there any other way for brand discovery for B2B companies?
I think a lot. I recently was traveling in an Indigo from, I guess, Bangalore to Delhi, and I saw an ad from Zoho. So there was I would say, a template of Zoho offering a lot of product and services, explaining what do they do. So that is another way to go about it.
Right.
So essentially, B2B brands need to evolve and look what B2Cs are doing, right? I'm not saying be as quirky as maybe Bold Care, right? But eventually you have to get out of your silos and approach your customers in a more customer centric, in more like mass level approach.
Correct. And I think I'll give an example from Meta itself.
Right.
So I'm seeing a lot of ads recently from Meta,
Mhm.
which are essentially a short, like static post which tells that what you should do and don't do in terms of creative. They also tell कि हाँ ये हमारे कुछ guidelines है that you can go through when creating ads.
Right.
They're also recommending things around conversion API, and these are not conversion ads, by the way. These are in my opinion either traffic ads or they're engagement ads.
Right.
So basically in this sense Meta is doing B2B campaigns,
Definitely.
but they are not doing it strictly for lead generation. They
Right.
are spending that money to probably build audience, educate users, and eventually they will turn it to customers one way or the other, or in Meta's context they will increase spending on
I would say,
Facebook.
interestingly, you mentioned Meta, because I feel Meta is one of the companies, apart from having an amazing product, they mastered the art of educating their customers. I mean, think about Snapchat, think about Twitter. Most of the marketers still don't know how their dashboard works, right?
Correct.
And whose fault is that? Because if a marketer can figure out Meta and Google's dashboard, why he is struggling with Twitter and Snapchat?
ये तो यार मतलब डैशबोर्ड इज एक्सेप्शनल.
I don't want to go into that. Maybe that's
राइट.
for another
एक्सेप्शनल
episode.
या
But what I'm trying to say, and eventually I'm implying what you have said is, you have to put money to educate your customers. Talk to them about their pain points.
राइट.
Try to help them in a non-expectations way. Like you're not expecting anything out of return, right? फल की इच्छा मत करो, right?
राइट.
Unless or until you're doing that, your customer will understand that okay, this is the company I want to engage with, because अगर ये इतना एफर्ट मुझे एजुकेट करने में डाल रही है और कुछ मांग भी नहीं रही, तो what will happen once I'll give them money?
Right, correct. I
Right.
understand your context.
So that is the reason some of the companies, like maybe some IT companies. So I was having a conversation with the marketing head of an IT companies, right? So they do a lot of lead gen campaigns and they are very successful at it, and that's the reason Indian IT companies are doing so good.
Yeah, I think मुझे एक ad जो बहुत अच्छी लगती है, which is not typically an ad, it's a brand partnership, Infosys की,
Right.
है ना. Infosys का ad, I may be wrong, वो शायद US Open में आता है या विंबलडन में आता है. They have been partner there और वहाँ पे सिर्फ Infosys लिखा हुआ आता है बड़ा बड़ा.
Right.
But if you notice, Infosys की ad मैंने और कहीं नहीं देखी है. But there is a reason probably they are doing that. They have figured it out. And someone who says that कि हाँ इतनी बड़ी कंपनी को, B2B कंपनी को एडवर्टाइजिंग की ज़रूरत नहीं है, I mean this is a clear sign that they are doing it.
यार ये तो मुझे सबसे बड़ा मिथ लगता है कि किसी भी B2B B2C कंपनीज को मार्केटिंग की जरूरत नहीं है. अगर ऐसा होता तो कोका कोला कप की मार्केटिंग बंद करके पैक करके चला गया होता, राइट?
Correct.
इट्स अ लाई. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. बट इंटरेस्टिंगली यू मेंशन इन्फोसिस एंड टेनिस, राइट? व्हाई डू यू थिंक दे चोज लाइक विंबलडन?
I don't know, maybe or may be wrong, but मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि उनका जो कस्टमर बेस है बहुत बड़ी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हैं, एंड probably the headquarters is in New York. And I think every time I watch US Open, I see कि वहाँ पे जितने सेलिब्रिटीज़ मैं वहाँ देखता हूँ, I don't see it in Australia. Australian Open, I don't see it in French Open, I don't see it in Wimbledon. Like वहाँ पे स्पोर्ट्स के सबसे बड़े एथलीट्स आ रहे हैं, वहाँ पे हॉलीवुड के सेलिब्रिटीज़ आ रहे हैं, and probably people from a lot of big business backgrounds are coming there. I also noticed there was this tennis star, uske husband, I think he's a big investor. He was also there. So I'm quite sure that they are getting the kind of eyeballs they really need for their business.
So I think what it means is that Infosys CMO deserve a shout out, that he actually knows where his customers are.
वैसे उनका CMO है कि नहीं? वैसे इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन. आई डोंट नो CMO.
Obviously होगा. I mean, that's not a 1,000 crore company you mentioned, right?
बट हाँ देखना चाहिए ना, ये इंटरेस्टिंग है
Yeah,
कि
yeah. I
CMO
guess
होगा कि नहीं.
we should drop him a message and say that, boss, you are doing pretty good job, and people are talking about it.
Yeah, and probably we can ask him कि क्या company है sometime here.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. That's for another episode, maybe.
Right. So I think this was a fun conversation. And before we end this, I just want if you can tell any B2B campaigns that is very notable to you, that you feel that people can learn from, or even we can learn from.
Yeah, I guess the one company is to my mind for SaaS, that will be Zoho, right? Because Zoho invests a lot in offline as well as online channels, right? So another company I would go about is HubSpot. So HubSpot invests a lot in content marketing in SEO. You search anything on the web around content marketing about lead generation, you will find HubSpot, right? So I really love these two, right? What about you? Any favorites?
So I don't feel any particular brand coming to my mind, but I think recently what I loved about is a US company called Odoo, ODOO,
Right,
right? So they did a roadshow in India, and roadshow is something which is unheard of in the Indian market. And this is something that one of the people that we know, they recommended us for Vazel,
right,
and they said that you should go ahead and do this in the US. I mean, I'm not sure how really it works, but Odo did a campaign जहाँ पे they stayed in certain cities, brought people, free of cost event, and वहाँ पे they just let people ask questions about their product. मैंने जितने भी इवेंट्स आज तक ऐड किए हैं, अटेंड किए हैं, विच इज़ around the product and from a specific brand, I haven't seen that kind of engagement anywhere. Like people were asking questions about certain feature of the product. मतलब डेमो भी नहीं होता कई बार ऐसा,
right, right.
right? So I think Odo is the biggest example, and I really don't know उसका back end पे क्या success है, but front end पे तो I could see that it is creating a lot of engagement. They did a workshop for small business owners around accounting. Like, would you believe that? मतलब एक सेशन सिर्फ अकाउंटिंग के अराउंड ही हो रहा है पूरा दिन,
Interesting.
probably 5 hours 6 hours का, right? So I think that is where the company is actually engaging people on ground.
I mean, since you are mentioning, there is another company coming to my mind. It's a lesser known company called Agora Pulse, right? So
Yeah,
they are into
fantastic company.
analytics,
Yeah.
but they are bootstrapped first of all, and they are profitable, and they are doing millions in revenue, and all because of a good marketing. They really cracked up that how their marketing works. They have a good engaging audience. So I think if you spend or structure your marketing right for a B2B company, whether it is SEO, it is content, or it is performance, or a combination of all three, I guess then sky is the limit, because I have seen companies burning money in terms of leads, in terms of inside sales, are not getting anything. And there are companies who have figured out their marketing as in B2B space, and they are doing really amazing, and that too without funding.
That gives me an idea. I should create a content on best B2B campaigns and the companies. है ना? I think that's a good idea.
Maybe that is for another podcast.
I think a lot of people don't know about these companies, what they're actually doing. Because I think we also know about this because we have been actively engaging with them. And Agora Pulse, since you mentioned, is one of the competitors.
Right, right.
All right. So I think this was productive, and I hope that you liked it. And if you did like it, please hit the like button, put your comments on it, and whatever you want to listen to in the next podcast, please feel free to share with us. Looking for your feedback. Thank you so much.
Thank you.